right, we're coming up on 8 o'clock. So, let's get settled, let's get comfy, and let's pull up a comfortable, cozy old book. Welcome back. And, well, I guess this is the first of this book, and it will be the only. So, thanks for joining us. This is our continuing holiday series, reading classics of the season. Tonight we'll be picking up one of the best known but least known stories, I should say, of the holiday season, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. This is one of those stories that, well, I really am getting tired of saying it, and coming off as a broken record, I'm sure, but it's been adapted over and over and over. This one in particular, because it is so very bite-sized, it fits really well into just an episodic format. So a lot of shows have adapted this on their own without having to be sort of a special or anything. It's just, here it is. It's something of... it's evolved into a trope of its own. And so a lot of people are familiar with it. The story beats, the themes, the ideas will feel comfortable, like an old glove pulled out of the closet. And that's fine. That's great. The story itself may be less directly known. People know the beats, know the themes, know the tropes, know the ups and the downs, may even be able to rattle off the story themselves, but they may not know that this is where it came from. So, let's enjoy this together. This absolute classic of the holiday season. Now, this one is going to be on the, well, probably one of the shortest things we read. This is firmly in the short story territory. Not even, I mean, even a lot of the Lovecraft stories we read early on were longer than this. So, we probably will finish this before our hour break. In which case, we'll either... well, we'll just really need to decide which direction we want to take this. Whether it be talking, reminiscing, maybe spinning some holiday stories and memories of our own, or whipping out a book of other short stories and see what we can find, or maybe wrap up for the night. I don't know yet. So, let's go ahead and just get to the story, and we'll see where the night takes us. Alright, once more, this is The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but plop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it. Which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had what word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. Whew. In the vestibule below was a letterbox, into which no letter would go, and an electric button, from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also, appertaining thereunto, was a card, bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity, when its possessor was being paid $30 a week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a great cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses have been greater than she'd calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him. Something fine and rare and sterling. Something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal strips, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now, there were 2 possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window some day to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So now, Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her, and then she did it up again nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still with a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. On went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. With a whirl of skirts and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read, Madame Sofronie, hair goods of all kinds. One flight up, Della ran, and collected herself, panting. Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked at the Sofronie. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight of the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madame, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone, and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. it was like him. Quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it as on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear friends. A mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. "If Jim doesn't kill me," she said to herself, "before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stairway down on the first flight. And she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying a little silent prayer about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I am still pretty." The door opened, and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow. He was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat, and he was without gloves. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of a quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read. It terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her, fixedly, with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet even after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone?" he said, with an air of almost idiocy. "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I tell you. Sold and gone, too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me. For it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered." She went on with sudden serious sweetness. "But nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year, what is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said. "About me, I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first. White fingers, and nimble, tore at the string and paper. Then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas! A quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the Flat. For there lay the combs. The set of combs, side and back, that Della had worshipped long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell, with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers. But the tresses that should have adorned the coveted ornaments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and a smile and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, "Oh, oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with a reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me a watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell," said he, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. And now suppose you put the chops on?" The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas gifts. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat, who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of the house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi. Alright, so that was even shorter than I expected, but that brings us to the end of The Gift of the Magi. And that is definitely one of the sweetest stories to pull out on the holidays. It is sort of a universal human quality, and it plucks at the heartstrings. Yeah, for sure. A lot of the drama of it is extended in a lot of the adaptations. I know for certain that there's been at least one with a certain pair of mice that shall not be named for litigious reasons. That the episode alone was probably twice as long as our reading. But yes, this is really the entire holiday spirit encapsulated in a 10-minute story. And it's great. You feel the connection between our two characters. The house full of love, no matter the struggles they're going through. They've gone through a downsizing in income. They're going through hard times. But they're still finding the good that they can. And looking in all the best places for that good. In each other, and what they can do for each other. Not in any sort of selfish way, but only for the desire to make their partner happy. And that is really what the entire spirit of giving gifts on the holidays is about. You're not trying to sort of make it transactional. You're not trying to get ahead of any sort of potential gift that you might be given. You're not expecting anything in return, except maybe the smile of the recipient. That's all I ever look for when I'm giving a gift anyway, is to know and to hope that the feeling got across. Appreciation is nice, but really just to let them know that they've been in my thoughts. And that's the idea behind anybody giving gifts. The ideal, anyway. So, this is, and was, The Gift of the Magi. One of the most timeless of classics. Written early in the 1900s, which is kind of common for a lot of our books because, you know what, that's about when things started falling into the public domain. Wink, wink. So yeah. I will have to look right quick because that was so very, very short that we may need to try and find some random bits and bobs to add to our selections. I do know we are saving 'Twas the Night Before Christmas for the last reading before Christmas. That'll be the Tuesday after next. So that one is off the table. Shall not be discussed. Oh, there's something else from Baum. How long is this one? I'll need to look. No, we can't double up on Baum. We've read a lot of Baum. Maybe later in the maybe next week. Let's see. There's a lot of Baum. Okay, calm down here. Let's see. Sketchbook. Just Christmas stories. Yeah, Baum was exceptionally prolific. Like, not even getting into how many books there were in the setting of Oz, but everything he wrote before and after. His pen was burning holes through the page. Let's see. The problem with Gutenberg, not a terrible problem, but the problem is there are so many choices. To filter things out is something of a quandary. Let's see. Poetry, that's fine, but oh, you know what? How long is this? Oh, that's a. Did I download that actually? I need to look. I need to look. I need to know. So there are, as always, a plethora of choices. I did not download this one. It is a silly little story. I think I passed it over for being too short originally, but silly me. Look where we've landed. Oh, actually, no, I think it is... Oh, no, there it is. The trick is finding one that is not the audiobook, because that's what we're about, not what we're in the consumption of. Now, how long is this one, and will it be a pleasant surprise? Oh, it's actually got a decent bit of heft to it. This might actually fill our time. So, let's go ahead. This would be fun. We'll be shifting gears now to a little less of a classic, but we've kind of tapped the well for a lot of the classics, and it's good to expand and explore a little bit out further. So our next book, our next story for tonight and for the Christmas season, we will have some time to chat and yap, I'm sure, but I'd like to at least cue something up first. Will be by Eleanor Hallowell Abbott, and it is Peace on Earth, goodwill to dogs. Sounds like a fun one. I'm more of a cat house myself, but you know what? The dogs can have a happy holiday as well. But before that, let's just sit back and chat for a minute. We've got some time. We've got all sorts of time. Because honestly, I'm gonna be having a bit of a challenge to fill the remaining 2 weeks that we have before the holidays. That's a fair bit of reading, and the unfortunate truth of the matter is that most Christmas stories are intended for children and are very short. So it's hard to fill an entire month. We were spoiled by Halloween by the fact that most scary stories are full novels and written for adults that can take a fair bit more time. So we've dug this hole, and we'll keep digging, because you know what? I've chosen my shovel, I've chosen my place, but we're in for a bit of a struggle as we try and fill the time. And that's fine. That's fine. That just means there's more time for me to while away the hours with little bits of nothings here and there. Practice my yap. So, with that, yeah, no, movies would be spoiled for choice. It'd be so easy to just grab a couple movies, have some watch-alongs, and there we go. But we're here for me to wear my voice out, not to listen to other people do it. Anyway, so I think now's a good time. We can reminisce a little bit about holidays of our own, things that we've gone through in the past, or just personal observations about the holidays. I do remember one of my favorite holidays. It was, I don't even remember what the year was. I don't want to date myself too much, but we'd had some recent changes in the family. Some hard times. Everyone has hard times growing up. It happens. Some bigger than other, and that's understandable. But it was a time that those of us who were around took a little extra care to keep an eye on each other, make sure that we were together for this. And so, it was, as always, sitting up till far too late at night. Far too late. When you're a lad, that's what you do, right? Try and see if you can find anything going on. Any sort of fuss, bother. Because we just talked about it. Just the other day. The big man comes around. Doesn't matter if you got a chimney or not. The big man's coming. So you gotta see if you can spy little bits and pieces of it. That's true. That's true. Yeah. So we'd managed to stay up till the fine late hour of something like 11 o'clock or something. It was terribly late for a boy. Oh man, I don't know how I did it back then. Oh, even older today specifically. Oh no. Is it one of those days? Is it that day? Oh no. But yeah, so been staying up, and I've got a kid brother and a kid sister. And congratulations, buddy. Another year around this the trip we make, and just keeps on going. So we'd stayed up, and we'd trying to keep each other around and awake. The sister was very small at this point. The brother was a little bit older, just enough to get into trouble with me. They're the best sort of sidekicks. But finally gave up the ghost and whiled away to sleep. And it'd been, this was probably the start of an early tradition, but from that year on, especially, I would always get up really, really early on Christmas. But somehow so I went to bed at went to sleep finally around 11. Got up around 4. Crept down the stairs, trying not to make a noise because I knew 4 o'clock was far too early to be getting everyone up. At least wait till 6 or so, right? Sun can't be up yet, but you can at least wait till about 6. That's a reasonable hour, of course. So, crept down the stairs. Normally, full dark. The tree usually would be something that the first person up in the morning would turn it on and we'd be there. But there was a glow coming from the edge of the stairwell. So I crept downstairs and wouldn't you know it, the tree was on. Looked on the side, looked at a table that we'd left out the night before, because of course you have to leave something out for the big man, just to show your appreciation. Some crumbs left, about a bite or two left. Yeah, how did that get censored? That is criminal. Google, YouTube? What are you doing? Come on. There is no reason for that to get clipped. But, so, made it downstairs, found the crumbs and a bite of a cookie left on the table. And, a suspiciously empty glass of milk. Because, of course, can't leave cookies without milk. And what was it? It had been common back then, or I don't know if it was common back then, or if it was just something that we'd picked up that year, but we did reindeer treats. It was like a little bundle of glitter and kibble and seeds. I don't even know what it was, but we'd sprinkle it on the we'd set it on a plate on the front porch, and that was all spread off the plate and tossed all over the place. It was fun stuff. But made it around and starting to poke around, and would just sit by the tree, watching, keep an eye on the lights, and Google, what? That is absurd. Usually, if you've had an account long enough, they just automatically verify you as an adult, right? At least you'd think so. But no. No. Yeah, exactly. If the account is older than the threshold for being an adult, there's ideas. There's implications there. But so, eyeing the tree, watching the glittering lights, trying to be as quiet as possible, not to wake up the sleeping mother or to wake up the brother or sister, because, that was my time right then. That was my time. Just after Santa had left, and before everybody else was up, those 2 hours were mine. So, gotta look about. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but at my house, the gifts from Santa were never wrapped. They just had a card on them that said who they were for, from Santa. So you'd know exactly which ones were yours. And it'd be out in the open and ready to go as soon as you came downstairs. So, found there was, I guess I will date myself now. Not necessarily, I won't say how old I was. But, found there under the tree, card from Santa to Arthur, a clear plastic Game Boy Color. You know, the ones you could see through? No, it wasn't color, it was a pocket. Game Boy Pocket. With the clear plastic that you could see right through it, the whitish tinge to the plastic casing. An 8-pack of AAA batteries, and a fresh copy of Pokemon Blue version. And from then, it was all over. The rest of the morning was gone. It was I will say that was the easiest time, the easiest year I'd ever had to make it until 6 o'clock. Didn't need to sit around twiddling my thumbs or anything. I probably went through, I bet 2 of the batteries were almost dead by the time 6 o'clock rolled around and everyone started to filter downstairs on their own. It was very, very hard to keep quiet, because, as you would also know, next to my pile was my brother's pile, who had a similar selection from Santa Claus. I don't remember what color his was, but it wasn't a fellow Game Boy Color, or a Game Boy Pocket, with the red version, and a pack of batteries. So, we were set. Our household was ready and prepared. We just needed to wait for everybody to wake up, and wouldn't you know it, I didn't need to prompt anybody that morning. Just waited. 6 o'clock rolled around, and kid brother came downstairs and was every bit as excited as I was. A fair bit louder, because at that point it was late enough, it's fine. The sister was just barely not a baby at this point, so she was a little bit longer coming down. But I don't think we had to wake up Mom at all that morning. I think she wandered down on her own sweet time and had a much more comfortable Christmas morning than most parents are entitled to. I will say that in other years, earlier and after, 6 o'clock rolls around and you know, you're knocking at the door, whispering at the door, and you know that whisper that kids do, the Mom, 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 where you don't want to be loud, but you are actively trying to ruin their night. That one, right? Other years that happens. 6 o'clock rolls around, you're either hungry or you want to really get into the whole ambiance of the morning and start tearing through the presents. So, yeah. That year, peace and quiet reigned. It was a good year. It was a good year. And wouldn't you know, somehow, Mom knew that Santa brought us Pokemon and Game Boys, because wrapped in the gifts from Mom was a link cable, and I think AC adapters. There's some sort of illicit communication going on between Santa and parents, you know. I know we had said that we talked about it in last time's reading. Yes, the parents are Santa's deputies, but it's usually an unknowing sort. They just make sure that things are set up properly so that the kids are properly surprised and ready to go. But this was some sort of back channel dealing. I knew it. I knew it then. Yeah, somebody leaked. I bet it was Blitzen. Loose-lipped that one. So, there was an informant indeed. All right. We've had a little bit of reminiscence. We've had some back and forth banter. Let's go ahead and take a few minutes, stretch our legs. It's a little early, but we're gonna shift our break a little bit earlier tonight so that we can get back and start another story when we return. Let's take a few minutes now to rest and relax, and we'll be back in a little while. Thanks. All right. Let's settle back in, and I will update a couple things here. Since we've shifted gears on the book, let's go ahead and update this. Break that up a little bit. And then author on this one is... Here we are. This one will obviously need a little bit of TLC on that label. That looks about right. It's a little snug, but it'll work. And then we do need to have a quick edit on here. And here we are. Update that on the title there, because it would be a terrible, terrible shame to have that wrong. All right, so with that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and shift gears, because the first book was so very, very short, and we had a little bit of reminiscence and just time to natter on a little bit. Let's go ahead and jump into our second book tonight. This one is also short, but not nearly so short as the previous. In fact, I think we will actually be able to have some carryover, and this will likely get us into Friday's selection. And that sounds just about right to me. This is a two-parter. Depending on how long that part is, we will see if that is a good place to leave off. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, that looks about right. So we'll do this one in two parts. We'll read the first part tonight, and then we'll leave the second part for Friday. And we'll see how that shapes things up. So, this is Eleanor Hallowell Abbott's Peace on Earth, Goodwill to Dogs. Part 1. If you don't like Christmas stories, don't read this one. And if you don't like dogs, I don't know just what to advise you to do. For I warn you perfectly frankly that I am distinctly pro-dog and distinctly pro-Christmas, and would like to bring this to this little story whatever whiff of fur balsam I can cajole from the make-believe forest in my typewriter. And every glitter of tinsel, smudge of toy candle, crackle of wrapping paper that my particular brand of brain and ink can conjure up on a single keyboard. And very large-sized dogs shall romp through every page, and the mercury shiver perpetually in the vicinity of zero. And every foot of earth be crusty brown and bare with no white snow at all, till the very last moment when you'd just about given up hope. And all the heart of the story is very, oh, very young. For purposes of propriety and general historical authenticity, there are, of course, parents in the story, and one or two other oldish persons. But they all go away just as early in the narrative as I can manage it. Are obliged to go away. Yet, lest you find in this general combination of circumstances some sinister threat of audacity, let me conventionalize the story at once by opening it at the most conventional of all conventional Christmas story hours, the twilight of Christmas Eve. Enough said? Oh, she actually says enough said. Christmas Eve, you remember? Twilight. Awfully cold weather. And somebody very young. Now, for the story itself. After 5 blustering, wintry weeks of village speculation and gossip, there was, of course, considerable satisfaction in being the first to solve the mysterious holiday tenancy of the Rattlepane house. Breathless with excitement, Flame Norris telephoned the news from the village post office. From a pedestal of boxes fairly bulging with red-wheeled go-karts, one keen young elbow rammed for balance into a gay, glassy shelf of stick candy. Green tissue garlands tickling across her cheek, she sped the message to her mother. "Oh, Mother Funny," triumphed Flame. "I found out who's Christmasing at the Rattlepane house. It's a red-haired setter dog with one black ear, and she's sitting at the front gate this moment, superintending the unpacking of the furniture van. And I've named him Lopsy." "Why, Flame, how absurd!" gasped her mother, in consideration of the fact that Flame's mother had run all the way from the icy-footed chicken yard to answer the telephone. It shows distinctly what stuff she was made of that she gasped nothing else. And that Flame herself re-telephoned within... Ooh, a little bit of a tickle there. Let's take a sip of this first. And that Flame herself re-telephoned within the half hour to acknowledge her absurdity shows equally distinctly what stuff she was made of. It was from the summit of a crate of holly wreaths that she telephoned this time. "Oh, Mother Funny," apologized Flame. "You were perfectly right. No lone dog in the world could possibly manage a great spooky place like the Rattlepane house. There are 2 other dogs with him. A great, long, narrow, sofa-shaped dog upholstered in lemon and white. Something terribly ferocious, like Russian wolfhound, I think he is. But I've named him Beautiful Lovely. And there's the neatest-looking paper-white coach dog, just perfectly ruined with ink spots. Blunderbot, I think, will make a good name for him. And... oh, Flame," panted her mother, "dogs do not take houses." It was from the chicken yard that she had come running this time, but only from her husband's sermon-writing room in the attic. "Oh, don't they, though?" gloated Flame. "Well, they've taken this one anyway. Taken it by storm, I mean. Scratched all the green paint off the front door, torn a big hole as a cavern in the barberry hedge. Pushed the sundial through the bulkhead. If it snows tonight, the cellar will be the glacier, and dogs do not take houses," persisted Flame's mother. She was still persisting, indeed, when she returned to her husband's study. Her husband, it seemed, had not noticed her absence. Still poring over the tomes and commentaries incidental to the preparation of his next Sunday's sermon, his fine face glowed half frown, half ecstasy in the December twilight, while, close at his elbow, all unnoticed, a smoking kerosene lamp went smudging its acrid path to the ceiling. Dusky lock for dusky lock, dreamy eye for dreamy eye, smoking lamp for smoking lamp. It might have been a short-haired replica of Flame herself. "Oh, if Flame had only been set like the maternal side of the house," reasoned Flame's mother, "or merely dreamy like her father. Her father, being only dreamy, could sometimes be diverted from his dreams, but to be set and dreamy both? Absolutely set on being absolutely dreamy? That was Flame." With renewed tenacity, Flame's mother reverted to truth as truth. "Dogs do not take houses," she affirmed with unmistakable emphasis. What?" jumped her husband. Dogs? Dogs? Who said anything about dogs?" With a fretted pucker between his brows, he bent to his work again. "You interrupted me," he reproached her. "My sermon is about hellfire. I all but smelled it. It was very disagreeable." With a gesture of impatience, he snatched up his notes and tore them in two. "I think I'll write about the Garden of Eden instead," he rallied. "The Garden of Eden in Iriston. Florentina alba everywhere. Whiteness, sweetness. Now, let me see. Orris root, I believe, is deducted from the Florentina alba." Sniffed Flame's mother. With an impulse purely practical, she started for the kitchen. "The sermon happens to be Christmas time," she suggested bluntly. "Now, if you could see your way to make a sermon that smelt like donuts and plum pudding. Donuts? Queried her husband and hurried after her, supplementing the far, remote glory of God expression in his face. The glory of donuts shone suddenly very warmly. Flame, at least, did not have to be reminded about the seasons. "Oh, Mother," telephoned Flame almost at once, "it's so much nearer Christmas than it was half an hour ago. Are you sure everything will keep? All those big packages that came yesterday? That humpy one, especially? Don't you think you ought to peep or poke? Just the tiniest little peep or poke? It would be a shame if anything spoiled. Turkey, or a fur coat, or anything. I am making donuts," confided her mother with the faintest possible taint of asperity. "Oh," conceded Flame, "and Father's watching them. Then I'll hurry. Mother," deprecated the excited young voice, "you were always so horribly right. Lopsy and Beautiful, Lovely, and Blunderblunt are not Christmasing alone, all alone at the Rattlepane house. There is a man with them. Don't tell Father. He's so nervous about men." A man?" stammered her mother. "Oh, I hope not a young man. Where did he come from?" "Oh, I don't think he came at all," confided Flame. It was Flame who was perplexed this time. "He looks to me more like a person who has always been there. Like something, that the dogs found in the attic. Quite crumpled he is, and with a red waistcoat. A butler, perhaps? Sort of a second-hand butler? Oh, Mother, I wish we had a butler." "Flame," interrupted her mother quite abruptly, "where are you doing all this telephoning from? I only gave you 18 cents, and it was to buy cereal with." "Cereal?" considered Flame. "Oh, that's all right," she glowed suddenly. "I've paid cash for the telephoning and charged the cereal." With a swallow faintly guttural, Flame's mother hung up the receiver. "Dogs do not have butlers," she persisted unshakenly. She was perfectly right. They did not, it seemed. No one was quicker than Flame to acknowledge a mistake. Before 5 o'clock, Flame had added a telephone item to the cereal bill. "Oh, Mother," questioned Flame, "the little red sweater and the little red sweater and tam that I have on, would they be all right, do you think, for me to make a call in? Not a formal call, of course, just a neighborly greeting at the door. It being Christmas Eve and everything. And as long as I have to pass right by the house anyway, there is a lady at the Rattlepane house, what Father would call a Lady Baden. Miss... Not any real lady, I think," protested her mother. "Not with all those dogs. No real lady, I think, would have so many dogs. It isn't sanitary." "Isn't sanitary?" cried Flame. "Why, Mother, they're the most absolutely perfectly sanitary dogs you ever saw in your life." Into her eager young voice an expression of ineffable dignity shot suddenly. "Well, really, Mother," she said, "in whatever concerns man or crochet, I'm perfectly willing to take Father's advice or yours. But, after all, I'm 18, stiffened the young voice, "and when it comes to dogs, I must use my own judgment." "And just what is the lady's name?" questioned her mother a bit weakly. "Her name is Miss Flora," brightened Flame. All through this, I really assumed that Flame was much younger than 18, but "The butler has just gone to the station to meet her. I heard him telephoning quite frenziedly. I think she must have missed her train or something. It seems to make everybody very nervous. Maybe she's nervous. Maybe she's a nervous invalid, with a lost lover somewhere, and all sorts of pressed flowers. Somebody ought to call anyway. Call right away, before she gets any more nervous. So many people's first impressions of a place, I've heard, are spoiled for lack of some perfectly silly little thing like a nutmeg grater or a hot water bottle. And, oh, Mother, it's been so long since anyone lived in the Rattlepane house. Not for years and years and years. Not dogs, anyway. Not a lemon and white wolfhound. Not setters. Not spotty dogs. Oh, Mother, just one little wee single minute at the door. Just long enough to say the Reverend and Mrs. Flamand Norris and Miss Norris present their compliments. And are you by any chance short a marrowbone? Or would you possibly care to borrow an extra quilt to rug up under the kitchen table? Blunderblat doesn't look very thick. Oh, Mother, please! Yeah, for an 18-year-old girl, Flame is a little bit scatterbrained. Mother is right to worry, I think. When Flame said please like that, the word was no more, no less than the fabled bundle of rags or haunch of venison hurled back from a wolf-pursued sleigh to divert the pursuer even temporarily from the main issue. While Flame's mother paused to consider the particularly flavorous sweetness of that entreaty, to picture the flashing eye, the pulsing throat, the absurdly crinkled nostril that invariably accompanied all Flame's entreaties, Flame herself was escaping. Taken all in all, escaping was one of the best things that Flame did, as well as the most becoming. Whipped into scarlet by the sudden plunge from a stove-heated store into the frosty night, her young cheeks fairly blazed their bright reaction. Frost and speed quickened her breath, glint for glint her shining eyes challenged the moon, fearful even yet that some tardy admonition might overtake her. She sped like a deer through the darkness. It was a dull-smelling night. Pretty, but very dull-smelling. Disdainfully, her nostrils crinkled their disappointment. Christmas-time adventures ought to smell like Christmas, she scolded. Maybe if I'm ever president, she argued, I won't do so awfully well with the tariff or things like that, but Christmas shall smell of Christmas. Not just of frozen mud. And camphor balls. I'll have a great vats of fir balsam essence on every street corner, and gigantic atomizers, and every passerby shall be sprayed, and stores, and churches, and everybody who doesn't like Christmas shall be dipped. Under her feet, the smoothish village road turned suddenly into the harsh and hobbly ruts of a country lane, with fluctuant blackness against immutable blackness. Great sweeping pine trees swished weirdly into the horizon. Where the hobbly lane curved darkly into a meadow through a snarl of winter-stricken willows, the rattle of a loose window pane smote quite distinctly on the ear. It was a horrid, deserted sound, and with the instinctive habit of years, Flame's little hand clutched at her heart. Flame was 18. Little hand? I'm not sure about that. Then, quite abruptly, she laughed aloud. Oh, you can't scare me anymore, you gloomy old rattlehouse pane, she laughed. You're not deserted now. People are Christmasing in you. Whether you like it or not, you're being Christmased. Very tentatively, she puckered her lips to a whistle. Almost instantly, from the darkness ahead, a dog's bark rang out. Deep, sonorous, faintly suspicious. With a little chuckle of joy, she crawled through the barberry hedge and emerged for a single instant, only at her full height before 3 furry shapes came hurtling out of the darkness and toppled her over backwards. Stop! Beautiful lovely, she gasped. Stop, Lopsy! Behave yourself, Blunderblot! Sillies! Don't you know I'm the lady that was talking to you this morning through the picket fence? Don't you know I'm the lady that fed you the box of cereal? Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, she struggled. I knew, of course, that there were 3 dogs, but who ever in the world would have guessed that 3 could be so many? As expeditiously as possible, she picked herself up and bolted for the house, with 2 furry shapes leaping largely on either side of her, and one cold nose sniffing interrogatively at her heels. Her heart was very light, her pulses jumping with excitement. An occasional furry head doming into the palm of her hand warmed the whole bleak night with its sense of mute companionship. But the back of her heels felt certainly very queer. Even the warm yellow lights of the Rattlepane house did not altogether dispel her uneasiness. Maybe I'd better not plan to make my call so very informal, she decided suddenly. Not at a house where there are quite so many dogs. Not at a house where there is a butler, anyway. Crowding and pushing and yelping and fawning around her, it was the dogs who announced her ultimate arrival. Like a drift of snow, the huge wolfhound whirled his white shagginess into the vestibule. Shrill as a begging blind, the impetuous coach dog lurched his sleek weight against the door, sucking in a crack of light. The red setter's kindled nose glowed and snorted with a dragon-like ferocity. Without knock or ring, the door handle creaked and turned. 3 ecstatic shapes went hurtling through a window glare into the hall beyond, and Flame found herself staring up into the blinking, astonished eyes of the crumpled old man with the red waistcoat. Good evening, butler, she rallied. Good evening, miss, stammered the butler. I've come to call, confided Flame. To call? Stammered the butler. Yes, conceded Flame. I don't happen to have an engraved card with me. Before the continued imperturbability of the old butler, all subterfuge seemed suddenly quite useless. I never have had an engraved card, she confided quite abruptly. But you might tell Miss Flora, if you please. Would nothing crack the butler's imperturbability? Well, maybe she could prove just a little bit imperturbable herself. Oh, butlers don't tell people things, do they? They always announce things, don't they? Well, kindly announce to Miss Flora that the minister's daughter is at the door. Oh no, it isn't asking for subscription or anything, she hastened quite suddenly to explain. It's just a Christian call. But being so nervous and lost on the train and everything, we thought Miss Flora might be glad to know that they were neighbors. We live so near and everything, and can run like the wind. Oh, not Mother, of course, she's a bit stout. And Father starts all right, but usually gets thinking of something else. But I kindly announce to Miss Flora, she repeated with palpable crispness, that the minister's daughter is at the door. Fixedly old, fixedly crumpled, fixedly imperturbable, the butler stepped back a single jerky pace and bowed her towards the parlor. Now, thrilled Flame, the adventure really begins. It certainly was a sad and romantic-looking parlor, and strangely furnished, Flame thought, for even moving times. Through a maze of bulging and packing boxes and barrels, she picked her way to a faded, rose-colored chair that flanked the fireplace. That the chair was already half occupied by a pile of ancient books and 4 dusty garden trowels only served to intensify the general air of gloom. Presiding over all, the 2 dreadful bouquets of long-dead grasses flared wanly on the mantelpiece. And from the tattered old landscape paper on the walls, Civil War heroes stared regretfully down through pale and tarnished frames. Dear me, shivered Flame. They're not going to Christmas at all, evidently. Not a sprig of holly anywhere, not a ravel of tinsel, not a jingle bell. She must have lost a lot of lovers, thrilled Flame. I can bring her flowers anyway. My very first paper-white narcissus, my... With a scrape of the foot, the butler made known his return. Miss Flora, he announced. With a catch of her breath, Flame jumped to her feet and turned to greet the biggest, ugliest, most brindled, most wizened bulldog she had ever seen in her life. Miss Flora? Repeated, Miss Flora, repeated the old butler succinctly. Miss Flora? Gasped Flame. Why, I thought Miss Flora was a lady. Why... Miss Flora is indeed a very grand lady, miss, affirmed the butler without a flicker of expression, of a pedigree so famous, so distinguished, so... Numerically on his fingers, he began to count the distinctions. 5 prizes this year, and 3 last. Do you mind the chop? He gloated. The breadth, the depth. Did you never hear of the Atlantis? He demanded. Them bull-baiting dongs that was invented by the 2nd Duke of York or thereabouts in the year 1406. Oh, my glory, thrilled Flame. Is Miss Flora as old as that? Miss Flora, said the old butler with some dignity, is young. Hardly too, in fact. So young that she seems to me but just weaned. With her great eyes goggled to a particularly disconcerting sort of scrutiny, Miss Flora sprang suddenly forward to investigate the visitor. As though by a preconcerted signal, a chair crashed over in the hall, and the wolfhound and the setter and the coach dog came hurtling back in a furiously cordial onslaught. With wags and growls and yelps of joy, all 4 dogs met in Flame's lap. They seem to like me, don't they? Triumphed Flame. Intermittently, through the melee of flapping ears, shoving shoulders, waving paws, her beaming little face proved the absolute sincerity of that triumph. Mother's never let me have any dogs, she confided. Mother thinks they're not... Oh, of course, I realize that 4 dogs is a good many, she hastened diplomatically to concede to a certain sudden droop around the old butler's mouth corners. From his slow, stooping poke of the sulky fire, the old butler glanced up with a certain plaintive intentiveness. All dogs is too many, he affirmed. Come Christmas time, I wish as I was dead. Wish you were dead. Wait a minute. Come Christmas time, I wish as I was dead. Wish you were dead? At Christmas time? Cried Flame. Acute shock was in her protest. It's the feedin', sighed the old butler. It ain't that I mind eatin' with them on All Saints' Day, or 4th of July, or even Sundays. But come Christmas time, it seems like I craves to eat with more humans. I got a nephew less than 20 miles away. He's got cider in his cellar and plum puddings. His woman, she raises guinea chickens, and mince pies there is... and tasty gravies. But me, I mixes dog bread and milk. Dog bread and milk till I can't see nothing. Think nothing but mush. And him with cider in his cellar. It ain't as though Mr. Delcote ever came himself to prove anything, he argued. Not he, not Christmas time. It's traveling he is. He's had misfortunes. He confided darkly. He travels for 'em same as some folks travel for their health. Most especially at Christmas time, he travels for his misfortunes. He... Mr. Delcote, quickened Flame. Mr. Delcote? Now, at last was the mysterious tendency about to be divulged? All he says, persisted the old butler, all he says is, now Barrett, that's me, now Barrett, I trust your honor to see that the dogs ain't neglected just because it's Christmas. There ain't no reason, Barrett, he says, why innocent dogs should suffer Christmas just because everybody else does. They ain't done nothing. It won't do now, Barrett, he says, for you to give 'em their dinner at dawn when they ain't accustomed to it, and a pail of water, and shut 'em up while you go off for the day with any barrel of cider. You know what dogs is, Barrett, he says, and what they isn't. They've got to be fed regular, he says, and with discipline, else there's deaths. Some natural, some unnatural, some just plain spectacular from furniture falling on their arguments. So, if there's any fatalities come this Christmas time, Barrett, he says, or any undue gains in weight or losses in weight, I shall infer, Barrett, he says, that you was absent without leave. It don't look like a very wholesome Christmas for me, sighed the old butler. Not either way. Not what you'd call wholesome. Butler's character, Barrett's character, has shifted as he's become a little bit more familiar. The word choice has become a little less urbane. But this Mr. Delcote? Puzzled Flame. What a perfectly horrid man he must be to give such heavenly dogs nothing but dog bread and milk for their Christmas dinner. Is he young? Is he old? Is he thin? Is he fat? However in the world did he happen to come to a queer, battered old place like the Rattlepane House? But once come, why didn't he stay? And... Yes'm, sighed the old butler. In a fermented curiosity, Flame edged jerkily forward and subsided as jerkily again. Oh, if only this was a parish call, she deprecated. I could ask questions right out loud. How, where, why, when. But being just a social call, I suppose... Appealingly, her eager eyes searched the old butler's inscrutable face. Yes'm, repeated the old butler dully. Through the quavering fingers that he swept suddenly across his brow, 2 very genuine tears glistened. With characteristic precipitousness, Flame jumped to her feet. Oh, darn, Mr. Delcote, she cried. I'll feed your dogs Christmas Day. It won't take a minute after my own dinner or before. I'll run like the wind. No one need ever know. Nope. That was a random little disconnect. I think we're back to normal, though. Yes, I do think we're all right. So it was that when Flame arrived at her own home 15 minutes later and found her parents madly engaged in packing suitcases, searching timetables, and rushing generally to and fro from attic to cellar, no very mutual exchange of confidences ensued. "It's your Uncle Wally," panted her mother. Another shock. Did I ope? It happens sometimes. It slips out. Not such a bad one either, explained her mother. But of course we'll have to go. The very first thing in the morning. Christmas Day, too. And leave you all alone. It's a perfect shame. But I planned it all out for everybody. Father's lay reader, of course, will take Christmas service. We'll just have to omit the Christmas tree surprises for the children. It's lucky we didn't have to unpack the trimmings, or tell a soul about it. In a hectic effort to pack both a thick coat and a thin coat, and a thick dress and a thin dress, and a thick boots and thin boots in the same suitcase, she began very palpably to pant again. Yes, every detail is all planned out, she asserted. That was a fun one. Yes, every detail's all planned out, she asserted with a breathy sort of pride. You and your father are both so flighty, I don't know whatever in the world you'd do if I didn't plan out everything for you. With more manners than efficiency, Flame and her father dropped at once every helpful thing they were doing and sat down in rocking chairs to listen to the plan. Flame, of course, can't stay here all alone. Flame's mother turned and confided sotto voce to her husband. Young men might call. The lay reader is almost sure to call. He's a dear, delightful soul, of course, but I'm afraid he has an amorous eye. All lay readers have amorous eyes, reflected her husband. Taken all in all, it is a great asset. Don't be flippant, admonished Flame's mother. There are reasons why I prefer that Flame's first offer of marriage should not be from a lay reader. Why? Frightened Flame. Shh, shh, cautioned her father. Very good reasons, repeated her mother. From the conglomerate packing under her hand, a puff of spilled tooth powder whiffed fragrantly into the air. Yes, prodded her husband's blandly impatient voice. Flame shall go to her Aunt Mina's, announced the dominant maternal voice, by driving with us to the station. She'll have only 2 hours to wait for her train, and that will save 1 bus fare. Aunt Mina is a vegetarian, and doesn't believe in sweets either, so that will be quite a unique and profitable experience for Flame to add to her general culinary education. It's a wonderful house, a bit dark, of course, but if the day should prove at all bright, not so bright, of course, that Aunt Mina wouldn't be willing to have the shades up, but, oh, and Flame, she admonished, still breathlessly, I think you'd better be careful to wear one of your rather longish skirts. And, do be sure to wipe your feet every time you come in, and don't chatter. Whatever you do, don't chatter. Your Aunt Mina, you know, is just a bit peculiar, but she is a worthy woman, so methodical, so... Flame's inner vision appeared quite suddenly the pale, inscrutable face of the old butler who asked nothing, answered nothing, welcomed nothing, evaded nothing. Yes'm, said Flame. It was a very, frankly, disconsolate little girl who stole late that night to her father's study and perched herself high on the arm of his chair with her cheeks snuggled close to his. Oh, Father Funny, whispered Flame, I've got such a queer little pain. A pain? Jerked her father. Oh, dear me, where is it? Go and find your mother at once. Mother? Frowned Flame. Oh, it isn't that kind of pain. It's in my Christmas. I've got such a sad little pain in my Christmas. Oh, dear me, sighed her father. Like two people most precipitously smitten with shyness, they sat for a moment staring blankly around the room at every conceivable object except each other. Then, quite suddenly, they looked back at each other and smiled. "Father," said Flame, "you're not, of course, a very old man, but still, you are pretty old, aren't you? You've seen a whole lot of Christmases, I mean." "Yes," conceded her father. From the great clumsy rolling collar of her blanket wrapper, Flame's little face loomed suddenly very pink and earnest. "But father," urged Flame, "did you ever, in your whole life, spend a Christmas just exactly the way you wanted to? Honest to Santa Claus now, did you ever?" Why, no," admitted her father after a second's hesitation. "Why, no, I don't believe I ever did." Quite frankly, between his brows there puckered a very black frown. "Now, take tomorrow, for instance," he complained. "I had planned to go fishing through the ice. After the morning service, of course, after we'd had our Christmas dinner, and gotten tired of our presents. Every intention in the world I had of going fishing through the ice. And now your Uncle Wally has to go and have a shock. I don't believe it was necessary. He should have taken extra precautions. The least that delicate relatives can do is take extra precautions at holiday time. Oh, of course your Uncle Wally has books in his library," he brightened. "Very interesting old books that wouldn't be perfectly seemly for a minister of the gospel to have in his own library, but still, it's very disappointing," he wilted again. "I agree with you, utterly, Father Funny," said Flame. "But, Father," she persisted, "of all the people you know in the world, millions would it be?" No, call it thousands," corrected her father. "Well, thousands," accepted Flame. "Old people, young people, fat people, skinnies, cross people, jolly people. Did you ever in your life know anyone who had ever spent Christmas just the way he wanted to?" "Why, no, I don't know that I ever did," considered her father, with his elbows on the arms of his chair, his slender fingers forked to a lovely Gothic arch above the bridge of his nose. He yielded himself instantly to the reflection. "Why, no, I don't know that I ever did," he repeated with an air increasing of conviction. "When you're young enough to enjoy the day as a holiday, there's usually some blighting person who prefers to have it observed as a holy day. But by the time you reach an age where you really rather appreciate it being a holy day, the chances are that you've got a house full of rackety youngsters who fairly insist on reverting to the holiday idea again." Encouraged Flame. "When you're little, of course," mused her father, "you have to spend the day with the way your elders want you to. You crave a Christmas tree, but they prefer stockings. You yearn to skate, but they consider the weather better for corn popping. You ask for a bicycle, but they'd already found a very nice bargain in flannels. You beg to dine the gay kerchief scissor grinder's child, but they invite the minister's toothless mother-in-law. And when you're old enough to go courting," he sighed, "your lady love sentiments are outraged if you don't spend the day with her, and your own family are perfectly furious if you don't spend the day with them. After you're married," with a gesture of ultimate despair, he sank back into his cushions. No one, I suppose, in the whole world has ever spent Christmas just exactly the way he wanted to." "Well, I," triumphed Flame, "have got a chance to spend Christmas just exactly the way I want to. The one chance, perhaps in a lifetime, it would seem. No heartaches involved, no hurt feelings, no disappointments for anybody, nobody left out, nobody dragged in. Why, Father Funny," she cried, "it's an experience that might distinguish me all my life long. Even when I'm very old and crumpled, people would point me out on the street and say, 'There's someone who once spent Christmas just exactly the way she wanted to.'" To a limpness almost unbelievable, the eager little figure wilted down within its blanket wrapper swathings. "And now," deprecated Flame, "Mother has gone and wished me on Aunt Mina instead." With a sudden revival of enthusiasm, two small hands crept out of their big cuffs and clutched her father by the ears. Oh, Father Funny, pleaded Flame. "If you were too old to want it for a holiday, and not quite enough to need it for a holy day, so that all you asked in the world was just to have a holly day? Something all bright, red and green, and tinsel and jingle bells? How would you like to have Aunt Mina wished on you? It isn't, as though Aunt Mina was a pleasant person." Damn this aunt slander. She argued with perfectly indisputable logic. "You couldn't wish one a Merry Aunt Mina any more than you could wish him a Merry Good Friday." From the clutch on his ears, the small hands crept to a point at the back of his neck where they encompassed him suddenly in a crunching hug. "Oh, Father Funny," implored Flame, "you were a lay reader once. You must have had very amorous eyes. Couldn't you please persuade Mother that—" With a crisp flutter of skirts, Flame's mother herself appeared abruptly in the door. Her manner was very excited. Wherever in the world have you people been?" she cried. "Are you stone deaf? Didn't you hear the telephone? Couldn't you even hear me calling? Your Uncle Wally is worse. That is, he's better, but he thinks he's worse. And they want us to come at once. It's something about a new will. The lawyer telephoned. He advises us to come at once. They've sent an automobile for us. It will be here any minute. But whatever in the world shall we do about Flame?" she cried distractedly. "You know how Uncle Wally feels about having young people in the house. And she can't possibly go to Aunt Mina's till tomorrow, and—" "But, you see, I'm not going to Aunt Mina's," announced Flame quite serenely. Slipping down from her father's lap, she stood with a round, roly-poly flannel sort of dignity, confronting both her parents. "Father says I don't have to." Flame," protested her father. "No, of course you didn't say it with your mouth," admitted Flame, "but you said it with your skin and bones. I can feel it working." "Not go to your Aunt Mina's?" gasped another. "What do you want to do? Stay at home and spend Christmas with the lay reader?" "When you and Father talk like that," murmured Flame with some hauteur, "I don't know whether you're trying to run him down or run him up." "Well, how do you feel about him yourself?" veered her father quite irrelevantly. "Oh, I like him. Some," conceded Flame. In her bright cheeks suddenly an even brighter color glowed. "I like him when he leaves out the litany," she said. "I told him I like him when he leaves out the litany. He's leaving out more and more, I notice. Yes, I like him very much." "But this Aunt Mina business," veered back her father suddenly. "What do you want to do? That's just the question. What do you want to do?" "Yes, what do you want to do?" panted her mother. "I want to make a Christmas for myself," said Flame. "Oh, of course, I know perfectly well," she agreed, "that I could go to a dozen places in the parish and be crybabied over for my presumable loneliness. And probably I should cry a little," she wavered. "Towards the dessert, when the plum pudding came in and it wasn't like Mother's. But if I made a Christmas of my own," she rallied instantly, "everything about it would be brand new and unassociated. I tell you, I want to make a Christmas of my own. It's the chance of a lifetime. Even Father sees that it's the chance of a lifetime." "Do you?" demanded his wife, a bit pointedly. "Meep, meep," screamed the motor at the door. "Oh, dear me, whatever in the world shall I do?" cried Flame's mother. "I'm almost distracted. "When in doubt, do as the doubters do," suggested Flame's father quite genially. "Choose the most doubtful doubt on the docket, and—" "Flame's got a pretty level head," he interrupted himself, very characteristically. "No young girl has got a level heart," asserted Flame's mother. "I'm so worried about the lay reader." "Lay reader?" murmured her father. Already he had crossed the threshold into the hall and was rummaging through an overloaded hat rack for his fur coat. "Why, yes," he called back. "I quite forgot to ask. Just what kind of a Christmas is it, Flame, that you want to make?" With unprecedented accuracy, he turned at the moment to force his wife's arms into the sleeves of her own fur coat. Twice, Flame rolled up her cuffs and rolled them down again before she answered. I want to make a surprise for Miss Flora," she confided. "Beep, beep," urged the automobile. "For Miss Flora?" gasped her mother. Miss Flora, echoed her father. Why, at the Rattleplane house, you know, rallied Flame. Don't you remember that I called there this afternoon? It looked rather lonely there. I think I could fix it. Beep, 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 implored the automobile. But who is this Miss Flora? Cried her mother. I never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. How do we know she's respectable? Oh, my dear, deprecated Flame's father. Just as though the owners of Rattleplane House would rent it to anyone who wasn't respectable. Oh, she's very respectable, insisted Flame, of a lineage so distinguished. How old might this paragon be? Queried her father. Old? Puzzled Flame. To her startled mind, two answers only presented themselves. Should she say, oh, she's only just weaned, or, well, she was invented about 1406? Between these two dilemmas, a single compromise suggested itself. She's awfully wrinkled, said Flame. That is, her face is. All wizened up, I mean. Oh, then of course she must be respectable, twinkled Flame's father. And is related in some way, persisted Flame, to Edward II, Duke of York. Of that guarantee of respectability, I am, of course, not quite so sure, said her father. With a temperish stamping of feet and infuriate yank of the doorbell, Uncle Wally's chauffeur announced that the limit of his endurance had been reached. Blankly, Flame's mother stared at Flame's father. Blankly, Flame's father returned the stare. Oh, please, implored Flame. Her face was wrinkled like fine crepe. Okay. Smooth out your nose, ordered her mother, on the verge of capitulation, the same familiar fear as the other. Will you promise not to see the lay reader? She bargained. Yes'm, said Flame. And that's the end of part 1. Alright, this is a very silly story. It is a very Christmassy story, but it is a very silly story nonetheless. And you know what? That's fine. We have more than enough seriousness to go around. Some silliness is just right for this. But yes, you are absolutely right. This has gone directions I could never have imagined. I don't know that I've ever really been exposed to this story before. I'm enjoying it. It's very different. I can also see that it's one that probably would be difficult to adapt without being like a direct adaptation, which for a lot of Christmas stories, you don't see direct adaptations very much. They are twisting existing characters into the situation of the story. And this doesn't really play that tune very well. So I can understand that why we haven't seen this before. But it is a fun story nonetheless. And I will look forward to the second half. You know what? Yeah, I could see BBC trying to do this one as a special, just a one-off. And they likely have. They likely have. BBC does all of the things. All of the things. That actually does tickle the imagination and curiosity a little bit. Might need to look into that before our next reading on Friday to see if this does have an adaptation out there. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and save that, and I'll save our place, because that will be where we end for the evening on the readings front. I do need to grab this and move it into the proper directory. There we are. All right, and then this one needs to get moved as well. A little bit of housekeeping while I'm here. There is an unfortunate limitation on the number of books that I can have in our reading program. It limits my bookshelf to 15 on the free version. So I have to continually, when we finish a book, remove the book from the bookshelf and move it to a different directory. So, Gift of the Magi can be removed. And I think we are tidied up. Oh, nope, the Life and Memoir of Santa Claus needs to go to... That's still in downloads? I never moved that. Oh, lordy, I'm out of touch on my housekeeping. Shame, 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 shame. Shame, 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 shame. No, I did move it. Let's see if it... Yep, yeah. No scuff today, but there was, in fact, a little bit of irresponsibility. And that's more fun, right? All right, that tidies up that. So, we've had a little bit of fun tonight, but I think we will wrap up just a little bit early. Well, a little bit, yeah, not too bad, actually, considering how very, very early we finished our first session, the first reading. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've had a fun segue into the holiday spirit with us. An invitation to embrace the silly side of things. It's a very unserious time of year, and I would have it no other way. Alright, until next time, we will be back on our regularly scheduled reading on Friday, 8 o'clock, as always, where we will continue and complete this story. We'll finish quite early again, I'm certain. So I might try and find an appropriately short story to follow up there, to fill out the time, such as it is. Alright. If you haven't yet, I do encourage you to put a like on the stream, maybe comment, maybe follow. Just let the algorithm know we do some fun things around here. Invite some friends, get in and share the holiday spirit. Whether it be a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, ring in the New Year, whatever your flavor of merriment may be. Let's share it together. Alright. With that, I wish you a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, good night. And happy birthday, Akamos. I don't know if I actually properly said it. Alright, good night, guys. Hmm.